Okay, we're recording. Welcome to the Hypnotic Big Brother Season 2 cast assessment. Our Season 2 Slimageddon is premiering tomorrow night. It is May 25th, season's premiering May 26th. We have a very fun cast for this season, and right now we're going to go through everybody, give our thoughts on what we think will happen to them this season, what we hope will happen to them this season, and how far we expect them to go. Uh, as usual, I'm Alex here with my lovely prod team. That's Heather. That's Jacob. Zach's somewhere.
Zach's driving.
Zach is driving.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to get started?
Slow.
Cool. Okay. So first up is someone I think we are all surprised to have apply. That is Alex.
Whoa, Alex just left prod and just decided to play Slimageddon. It's
Well,
actually Mark.
why did you say we were surprised to play? Because
Uh,
I don't personally know Alex. I don't know them outside
I was
this. I've
shocked to see
never seen them around. Um,
because I know Alex because they won Triumph and then joined Prod, but I have never seen them play a single other game. So when they came out of nowhere and won Triumph, I was kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I saw them apply, and I was like, oh my god, why are they applying to our little game?
apparently with the 27th most popular locale in the Orgosphere. So maybe Alex really wanted to try that.
Let's go,
Um,
dude.
but no, like I was there for Alex's interview, and it was so much fun. Just seeing Alex just be so enthusiastic and passionate about the game. It was one of the longer interviews, which I like. They get to thoroughly explain all of their options, and he's open about talking a lot and going off on tangents. It sounds familiar, actually. Um, so I'm very excited to see Alex play. I also am not too familiar with Alex, but just off that one call, like I make it a point to like find that one person where just first meeting them, just me first having a conversation with them, would I love to work with them? I would love to be working with Alex if I was on this cast. So I think he's likely to go very far. The only issue that I have is that I know that he worries about his late time job. He may not be able to attend a lot of the ceremonies in the event that there was a live night. Of course, we have to like figure that out. But that may mean that some of those crucial comps, some of those crucial events that he may not be available for, he may not be participating in, he's missing out on some very important conversations. Because I know Mikey wasn't able to attend the
Yes.
live, and like Ali didn't either. And granted, Mikey
Mikey
suffered
made it
much
work.
less. Yeah, I mean, Mikey made it work, but I worry that Alex, not you, this Alex may suffer a similar fate, and I think maybe left behind in that sense. But we'll see.
I think
I
that
think Jacob covered it. Super high energy, which sometimes it could be a double-edged sword. I don't think it will be for with Alex given this cast. I feel it's a very energetic and might be a very high-strung cast. We'll see what happens. So that's just my comments on that.
I do think Alex is gonna have one of the stronger social games. Um,
from what I've seen, like, because I don't know them, but even in their project, uh, so far has been a time. So I do see like there is a social aspect in there. Um, I was not there for the interview, so I don't fully know a lot about that aspect. Um, but yeah, they seem really cool.
it's gonna be fun to watch them play. Okay, moving on. We have Andrew, aka Coach, aka Denson, and I'm sure there's other names he may go by. Um, but yeah, this is someone I'm very excited to watch play. I played with them in a mini before, and I've watched them play other games, and I know it is always a very fun time for every game. that they're in. Although I am now realizing I'm not too familiar on like game style, so maybe somebody else can touch on that.
I think from what I understand, I actually hosted Jensen's first. I think when they say first ever game, I don't remember. I do love Coach Jensen. I can buy two, yes, but what I do know, because spoiler alert, we're playing together in Wheel right now, and so he has a weird, uncanny ability to bring people together. Like, I'm not gonna lie, he made Wheel much more exciting. Like, he hosted trivia night one night, and I just felt like he has this weird social ability to bring people together, which I think is really cool. Will that get him in trouble this game? We'll see. Because I think doesn't Coach get cut either like early jury or late in the game for being too big of a threat normally? I don't really.
I've
I
heard
haven't
like
seen Coach
later, but
recently,
like
so
not always. But yeah, like he's a very fun dude to be around. Um, as Jacob knows from a past game that I just played with Denson, we did happen to work fairly closely, and Denson is someone who it's it doesn't feel like he's talking at you when you're strategizing. At least from my perspective,
correct.
from
Yeah.
that game from Spellbound. Um it always made me feel comfortable that even when we weren't voting together, that we would be able to come back together. And he's very logical. Granted, he may sometimes think things that like not everybody is actually down for, but he's willing to like hear things out and listen to them. Whereas some people may not be like that. And I feel like he very much is one of those people who listens to the options and listens to people before jumping on a different or jumping on
Also,
one course, if that makes sense.
I want to say he's very loyal from what I understand and see. If you're this person, you're going to the end with him. So that's something else I want to add.
Um, Also, this is a quick fun fact. During their interview, because I know you didn't watch this because you guys were playing Spellbound at the time.
Yeah.
They were mentioning something about like past games or whatever. Um, and he described his game as like usually very good but hard to like hide it. And he said like usually like sixth place is where I usually get out. Um, but oh, where's that one? He's like usually sixth place is the place I usually get out on, and then he was like, and I'm in Spellbound right now, and it's final eight, so clock's ticking. And then what happened? He got sixth. So
So I see him as a solid sixth placer, Jake.
Yeah.
nothing to feel bad about either. That's a great placement.
He did pretty solid. As the guy who hosted him recently, always excited to see Andrew in a nap pool. I believe he's one of the first people I've actually hosted thrice, so this is actually going to be very interesting to see how well he does. I hosted him in Big Brother a while back, but no, just to sort of piggyback off what you guys were saying earlier, he just has this uncanny ability to really just connect with people. Like in Spellbound, the post swap tribe, he was in the best position of anybody. Like I could think of like a legitimate reason why most people would get targeted. I could not think of a reason to which Andrew would have gotten voted off. Like any time before, like final 7 or 6, which is what happened in reality. Um, but because of that, I feel like Andrew will forever be the Elaine, the Christian. I'm struggling to think of that same person in Big Brother, but like that kind of person who, by the time of the final 8, by the time of the final 7, people are really thinking about jury votes. People are thinking about who has the best odds at winning at the end, and Andrew's just going to just be unable to escape it. And he says that he sucks at comp, so that's not a factor to which he feels like he can rely on, unless it's trivia, like a lot of trivia. Then Andrew's going to kill it, but he's not very well versed physically, and I feel like that's going to bite him in the butt in a game to where unlike Survivor, which I've seen him thrive in and really understand the meta of, I worry that because this is a game I think that favors people who are good in competitions. That will be his Achilles heel. If he can recover from that, I see him going very far and him doing very well and him being dragged to the end. But I also know that he really wants to do well because this is, according to him, one of, or if not his last game ever. So I hope he does well. I'm rooting for him.
Me too, especially because of that. All right, let's move on to our next cast member, and that is Aston. Now, I feel this is going to be an interesting player, and here's why I think that. In their interview, first of all, I have not really seen Aston play too much, and I feel like that's because they usually tend to like get the short end and usually get booted earlier than most players. But I want to point out two things in their interview that kind of struck me. They described themselves as both where was it? As both under the radar and then them having a villain side when someone tries to get them first. And I feel like that's going to be interesting because I feel like in this cast we have a good number of big personalities that are going to be the targets before them. So I feel like if they can ride that under the radar strategy well enough for the first couple of weeks, get a solid group of numbers with them, and then they can pull the snake side out, it could be a really interesting style of gameplay, especially with this cast. That's my perspective on this.
As one of the three people on this call who just played a game with them, they, to Alex's credit, got a short end of the stick. Was actually the first boot in our game. And reviewing the answers from their interview, they say that at first they start off under the radar and they progressively get more open as the game moves on, to where that will be my only question mark for them, is how well or how quickly they'll be able to get in good with power. Because if they're in with power and Aston is this low key under the radar player, because I've seen them go far in games. I saw them do very well in Distortion, and I believe they got 8th, 7th in a cast of what I believe was like 18. So I'm like, that's pretty solid, all things considered. So clearly they, in spite of them saying that they're usually an early boot in games, they have the capacity and they've won a game before. So I hope that Aston can get in good with someone who maybe wins the first, second HOH. That to me is a very powerful position in the game. That sort of allows them to sort of set the tone for the rest of the season. Aston gets in good with them. I think Aston has a far run in them, but we'll just see.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess bouncing off of that, because I think one at least, because this isn't going to be released until after Wheel is done and after this season is done. I'm interested to see if the downfall of her of there. Okay, yeah. Sorry, wasn't sure of their downfall. Like, is the same as Wheel? Because I know at least in Wheel, they didn't campaign when they were on the block. Too many people. I feel like that was at least their downfall in that game, and I really hope it is not their downfall in this game, if that makes sense. Because I want to see them fight. I want to see them, put their nukes up and attack.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. I feel like if they can then slide past maybe like round 3 and be fine, then I think they could last longer. Like, I feel like it's unfortunately going to be early or solidly into the jury phase. I'll be interested to see how that works out. Okay, next up, we have Austin. I looked towards you because
Austin was my autocast. I was like, we are casting Austin. I don't care what any of you guys say. Austin is a gem to this community in my eyes. We played a game way back in 2020, right when COVID hit. Um, and they were one of my closer allies in that game. And I wanted to take them further, but then didn't end up happening, all that jazz. That was the same. I'll say that later, never mind. But I love Austin. Austin is chaos, which is very similar to someone else we're going to talk about later on. Um Austin, I remember when I did play a game with him. He was like, "Oh yeah, I usually get targeted very early in merge in like survivor games because they like he's so out there and vocal about what he wants to do that he gets painted as a target very early on. And he's not afraid to cut bitches. He's not afraid to speak his mind or say anything that is going to affect the game. Um and that's what I respect about him because it's like don't play a scared game. Go off at people. Like so I wouldn't be surprised if there could be a fight this season if that makes sense.
oh, I'd love
Uh
a fight.
not like a big fight, but like, you know,
I want a big fight.
a vocal disagreement. I love Austin, and I can't wait to see Austin play. Austin is what got me back into the community.
That's nice.
So,
Also, one of the, I think the first person on a large group of people in this cast that described themselves as a villain more than a hero in these games.
we have a very villainous game.
Yes, and I think Austin's like the first one that, like, this like very much described themselves as a villain. So.
Oh, and I see that completely.
Jacob, Zach, how you guys feeling about Austin? You are muted.
I was about to say, Zach, I don't know if you want to go first, but if you want, you can.
No, Heather said it all.
Okay, well, Heather did not say it all. Actually, not for me. But so Austin, I hosted him as well to where he got Player of the Season when I was hosting him. It's weird because he played with a cast which I think was very malleable to his influence, his decision making. Granted, his fiance was also playing, so that also could have helped. But he was in such a good position for all of the game, and even like the minority felt like he was their out. If things went awry or an HOH didn't go the way that they wanted it to, they felt like, well, at least I have Austin. Like Austin, I could work with. Austin, I could play with. So seeing Austin play again so long after that's going to be very interesting. But I do also want to make this a point because obviously Heather mentioned her autocast. My autocast was Alex, but you know, not this Alex, the other.
Besides the point.
Besides the point. No, Austin's such a great strategic player. What worries me is what may be a double-edged sword here is that there are so many villains on this cast. Because on one hand, they could be people that he can collaborate with, that people could think of on the same wavelength as him. If like you build that strong relationship with somebody who understands and sees the game, the meta the same way that you do, you guys are going to go very far. And you could be transparent with each other about everything that you're thinking strategically. And Austin is somebody who can really connect with someone on that level. But also, I don't think some of his tricks are going to work on some of these people because they're going to be trying to do the same thing. I feel like there's going to be a war with a bunch of these big personalities. I see like a lot of villains going at each other, and the least villainous villain, I guess, being the beneficiary of that. I think Austin would start it if that were to be the case. I see Austin as someone who's not afraid to make a move, not afraid to speak his mind, not afraid to be overtly villainous. That he will be one of the first casualties in that.
Ooh.
Ooh.
If so,
I would cry.
it'd be a very unfortunate, but it'd be pretty spicy.
But also, due to a couple people on this cast, he may have a couple bumpers, but I worry. I know he has an amazing game in him. He got player of the season when I hosted him. I still defend it. I still speak highly of his game, but I don't speak highly of the game. But the game that he played, yes. But I get this vibe he's gonna get like last pre-juror, like early juror. That's why I think it's gonna happen.
I will
I don't want it to
cry.
happen, but that's why I'm thinking
I
he's gonna be
would
robbed.
absolutely cry.
Well, with that being said, let's move on to our next player, and that is Billy. Someone else might have to take the reins in this one because honestly, I don't know Billy too much.
I feel like
Uh,
Jacob wants to say something.
Yeah, I was
yeah.
gonna say I don't know how to describe Billy Vance. Like, and I did his interview. I think that describes him. He's just undescribable.
Love that.
I don't think I've ever had a good experience with Billy in a game before, at least one that we're playing together. Zach knows that second one very well. Um, that mischievous, sneaky bastard. Billy is a very cutthroat play, like cutthroat gives cutthroat like a new meaning. Like Billy just it's so weird because like with Billy, there's like this level of like how duplicitous he gets, but like oddly enough does not take duplicity and the backstabbing very well himself. So he almost has like this like he's obviously a villain, but he has this like
Villain number 2 in this case.
hero complex in a way where like I'm the one that can do that. Like when I don't know. I don't know how.
See, that's really funny because in Billy's interview notes, it says, "I refuse to play hero." So
So not even just a villain, refuse to be hero.
I looked at the path of goodness and said no.
Because I feel like a lot of people when they say they're a villain, they're just like, yeah, I get perceived as a villain, or like, yeah, I'm a villain, like kind of thing. But it's like to say I refuse to be hero.
Also, doesn't mind making fake connections. That would be a huge thing if, because I've seen a few players pull this off. If they're able to um pull off the move of have somebody in your corner, make that person think you're like 100% loyal to them, and then just cut them. Nah, be beautiful.
He has what's the word? What player am I trying to compare him to? He has 5 to 4 loser upside. Like they make it to the end, they play very well strategically, but just there's a bunch of people that just how he refuses to be hero. There's gonna be a bunch of people on the jury who refuse to vote Billy Vance at the end of the game because he did them so dirty. That's gonna be just my biggest thing. How well can he play this very cutthroat game, but in a way that's not distasteful to other people? Because I see Billy going one of two ways. When I hosted him in Spellbound, unfortunately, it was due to the opening twist. They got sent home, so we didn't really get to see him go all that far there. But from the way that that tribe was structured and how they were planning to attack as a 3, I figured Billy was going to go very far. But my only question, and if he can succeed, if he could go far, how many enemies will he make on the way playing the game? That's my biggest concern because I think he's going to make a lot.
We'll see. Okay, let's move on to our next player. That is Jeff.
So I don't know Jeff, but I think I did sit in on part of Jeff's interview, and I was like, we're casting this person because I think he is very personable. Um, That's yeah.
Oh, was this the interview that we did in the car and then my phone overheated?
Yes.
Mm.
So I was only there for part of the interview, and then someone
Yes,
else
and
came
I
in.
also had to take over in my car. Yes.
Yeah, because I live in Florida and my phone overheated.
So we
Um,
threw chaos at Jeff and he was into it, which is like,
we do love the chaos. Yeah, it was the whole like Celine Dion, Josh Groban thing that made me be like, yes, that is the person. Um,
but yeah.
trying to look at the what things. They're not afraid of anyone in games.
Called himself very physical, which in our interviews, one of the questions we ask is social, strategic, or physical player. We get like zero people that answer physical, like even like a little bit. And I'm pretty sure Jeff's the only one that did answer that they're physical because of how competitive he can get in competitions. And if if this cast is truly not as physical as um as they say they are, and Jeff comes in winning everything, it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to maneuver um out of being like painted as like, oh, the comp beast of the season.
However, that's also a downside because
Mm-hmm.
it's like if he is so competitive that he's winning all these things, people are going to try and get him out one way or another.
Right, but I'm saying like maybe what I'm hoping happens in that case is that he's able to spin it as like, hey, I'm winning you all these comps, get on my good side, and we can work together.
Do you guys know if he said he was a hero or a villain? Because it doesn't show up on here. Because that
Zach,
will
that's when the interview cut off.
got it. Because he could be like a very good asset to like a power alliance. Because like he's going out there winning all the comps. He's not afraid to be competitive. Like some people want to throw it. Some people particularly don't care for the power, but Jeff's one of the only people who advertise, yeah, no, I'm capable physically. I'm willing to get my hands dirty. I'm willing to win some of these cops.
Yeah,
I think in a group of a lot of people who kind of, instead of winning power directly, they kind of want to subtly be behind the scenes, like kind of
yeah,
making it being their HOH without it actually being their HOH. Jeff being most people's vessel. I think Jeff can play up to that. I think Jeff could sort of play into just just still being personable, but seeing so in a way that kind of like disarms people, that makes them think that he's not a threat and all that he's good for is winning competitions.
I see what
Again,
you're saying.
I'm not too familiar with how like he would play, like aside from just what we were given in the interview. Unlike most of this cast, so like I have an idea like what I'm expecting to see from them. Jeff, I don't, but I don't know. I have high hopes for Jeff. Jeff was one of my favorite of the interviews.
This could be a good wild card player. Be interesting to see. Speaking of wild card players, let's move on to Jason. This is gonna be fun, and here's why. So, uh, this is season 2. Obviously, in season 1, Jason was in the prod chat of one of our season 1 players, and Jason was very invested in the game, to put it mildly. um,
It was a point where it's like we love Madison so dearly, but we got a cast assessment from him before we got one from her.
which, if nothing else, speaks to how much Jason is going to get invested in this game.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe they were, yeah, they're another one of our villains in our cast. They're but villainous in a different way because they describe themselves as like the person that's their words, not ours. Nobody's favorite, so they got to take out the favorites. If we get a cast assessment, but in the form of like a kill list, like Like these people gotta go. Oh, that'd be so good.
Before you were like waiting, like, oh yeah, oh also he's one of our villains. I could have told you he was a villain.
Right, I know.
I saw Jason go very far before, and when he said, "Yo, I gotta take out the favorites," I'm like, take out the favorites you did do, Jason. You did take out a lot of my favorites. But Jason is unabashedly like I feel like this. I'm gonna be like a broken record already. Unabashedly villainous, unabashedly cutthroat. He will. Those players were like at eviction, they know they're gonna get sent home, but are still like they're still fighting. They're still pitching. This is a stupid move. Why the hell are you taking me out here? This is this person's resume move. That's Jason. Jason is that guy. Jason will be that guy. Jason will be very fun. He's gonna be confrontational. Like y'all talking about Austin getting into fights. Jason will get into like 10 before Austin probably gets into like one. Probably like it's gonna be
Jason versus Austin.
Jason versus no, actually, ironically, Jason and Austin were working very closely together in the game that I hosted them in. They had the Blackjack Alliance. Casey, another hypnotic alum, was also a part of that, and she went pretty far too. I think this cast, I don't know how well received Jason will be here, but if Jason gives half of the attention to this game as he did last season, I think he has a good head on his shoulder strategically. Like there's a couple times where I'm like, this is Madison playing, bro, not you. But I agreed with a lot of the stuff he's saying. Like that's absolutely what Madison should be doing. And that's without like talking to these people. That's just from memory and just thinking like this is how I remember Casey playing. I know from experience that this is what you should be doing. And I agreed with him more often than not. So if people give him the leeway to go far, he's a very strong strategic player.
I really
yeah.
like one thing he said, which was that the social game gets you farther in the game, but the strategic game helps you win. And that's what I'm saying. I feel like Jason's gonna be like one of the players in this cast that like analyzes everything, and that's very close to my kind of game style, so I'm kind of into that. So, um, it'll just be interesting to see if he can like, you know, tear apart the dynamics of what we got going on. Okay, moving on, we have my dear friend Jay.
Well, you probably know the most about Jay, so do you want to go first or do you want to go last? I
I'll
feel like you should go first.
I'll go first and get the ball rolling. So Jay is very big on the Facebook side of things, kind of similar to Gabby, who we had
They're
last season. Yeah,
another.
excuse me. Yes.
No, I was just saying.
Totally lost my train of thought. But yeah, Jay is very good at making it far in these games by knowing exactly who to cut and when to cut them. I forget if Jay also said that they were a villain. Yep, Jay's another villain. These people are gonna be like gunning for each other. I feel like
I'm hoping these people are how they say they are, like, or they are all talk, no game, you know?
well, at the very least, I feel like if we have all these people that say they're villains and at least a couple of them simmer down, I feel like Jay is at least going to be one of the people who behind the scenes will be figuring out because whenever I talk to Jay about a game that they're in, um uh one thing I'll hear a good amount of times is when they're describing like players in the game to me, they'll say, I like this person, but I'm saving them for like ninth place. And I'm like, why, how are you like planning this out so much?
I don't know. I was because I wasn't there for the interview, just reading some of his answers. Like I got a couple chuckles out of this. Not gonna lie, I'm not like in like a mean like demeaning way, but like this dude seems like a just very fun guy.
um
He like Heather, yo.
They go by they them, just saying.
Oh, good day though. Okay. so sorry. But with that being said, so Jay, from what I've gathered, going to be a very fun member of this cast. The one thing that I worry about though is that they openly talk about how they neglect the people in the minority. Like he has
Yeah.
his people already. These are the people he wants to talk to, and they have no interest in talking to those people. In Survivor, you could kind of get away with it, like investing more time into the people you are really feeling really good with, and you see no reason in BSing them or lying to them or trying to save face. I understand that, but they've even mentioned that they haven't played Big Brother aside from a mini. And in Big Brother, you're not going to get away with that unless it's like if you watch 22, like you never know at any week. The the dynamics of the house can change on a dime. And even if someone in the minority wins to the point where the status quo will be kept the same after that week, you still got to survive that week. And if Jay is in a good spot, technically speaking, and is well insulated in the majority, that's not going to matter if they're not maintaining and keeping tabs on the other people playing the game. Because everybody at any point can magically come into power.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't have predicted it, and you're sent off in a placement that you probably should not have gotten.
Yeah.
So that is my only concern with Jay.
Jay did say that their social game is garbage, which is fun because I feel like that's the answer we get from a lot of people. Oh, I'm a good social player. It's kind of fun to just say, yeah, not me. But they say they have a good strategic game, and kind of piggybacking off what you say, I feel like sometimes Jay gets very focused on winning the game, which is like obviously good. That's like what you, in theory, that's the goal of the game is to get to the end and win. But I feel like their focus on winning kind of makes them put on the blinders towards certain things that are happening. Um, I feel like in this case, they can take the blinders off, use the strategic mind that I've seen them use in other games, and apply it to a Big Brother format because they played a lot of Survivor games, as we said, not a lot of Big Brother games. If they can put that into this, could be smooth sailing, honestly.
I like what they said in their thing, or not like, but I was just reading it. Because I'm always a person in games who it's like I don't like when people take the goats. They said always take the goat. Villains have more fun, and it's better that you're the one who's getting the credit for the moves.
For reference, you have a question of would you rather take your closest ally to final two or a goat to final two? And they answered to always take the goat, which is really interesting.
But like the thing is, their take on it is interesting.
Yeah, it's less so that
Because they're like, oh yeah, I'll cut a bitch.
instead of yeah, I'll take the person that's easier to beat to the end. Instead, it's like, nah, I'll get the credit for cutting this person.
It's like, you see, I usually don't like that answer, but how they put it being like, nah, ain't no bitch is gonna take credit for my shit.
Well, with that being said, I feel like they also might run into the same situation of who we talked before about this? Was it Billy? That like they
People
could
are not gonna like them.
they could very easily get very easily get to the end, but they might have made a lot of enemies along the way.
Yeah.
So be interesting to see, because if this cast has a lot of villains as people describe themselves, then maybe they don't have to worry about being on people's good side. Okay. Moving on, we have Joe.
Zach, do you have
Oh,
anything
I'm
to
just
say
so
about it?
sorry. Zach.
Hi. What? Why am I being
Any thoughts
summoned?
on any thoughts on Jay before we move on?
No.
Well, I think
Well, any thoughts on Joe?
Well, Joe is a king. I don't know. Like, how do I describe Joe? Like, he's a really good friend of mine. He doesn't play games that often. So I am worried that him not gonna be knowing anyone is going to be his downfall of being early booed because that does happen to him in games. However, he does have some good friends that we will talk about later, so I'm not too worried about that. What's interesting about Joe is a very strategic, under the radar player, in my opinion, from the one game I hosted him in. Nobody like he literally made Final Three by pretty much doing nothing, to be honest. But
Like,
Go on.
that's Joe, I think, is the best I can put it.
so I don't know as much about Joe. However, what I do know is they are from my hometown.
And that's all that
And I
matters.
need to talk to them about that because I wanna I kind of personally want to ask that. But besides that, let me see.
One of their best moments in a game is convincing someone to give up immunity and then voting them out.
Yes. Yes.
Stellar move. Love that.
I should have done that when they gave me the immunity for being hot.
They gave
No, like-
you immunity, but
Not
then
that
you
it
get
wasn't
voted
a
out.
no.
Anyway,
But like
Ah,
we
Jacob,
talk about
yeah.
we
you
talk about
describe him.
this, but he also says like, yo, I'll maybe like decide like a vote like based off like a wheel. Like I don't know. Like he feels like a very much F it we ball kind of guy. Like kind of like there's a lot of question
Yeah.
marks actually in here. Like he was like strategic, I guess. You know, like
Yeah.
maybe I'll decide multiple wheel. I'm a mess, sort of. I don't know.
No, I
Like
literally was looking at that and I'm just like, wow, same.
Love a good chaos.
Joe kind of reminds me if Keaton could be under the radar, if that makes sense.
oh,
I
In terms
can
of
imagine that.
chaosness, just for the sake of chaos.
it's just weird because like that's not from because I've met Joe.
Yeah.
Well, not like met him like that, but like Zach introduced me to Joe. And I do not I'm thinking super loyal, down the no, yeah, apparently
Yes.
not. Because that's the vibe that he gives off. He's a very nice, wholesome. I want to say young man, but I don't know how old he is. But
I
he's
think
he's
he's
just a very
26.
yeah, I was about to
But
say, yeah,
yes.
it's like he seems like just a very wholesome guy who could do no wrong. And
Young
then
man.
he decides if you're getting sent home or not by wheel. Like that to me is fun.
I would love if he pulls out a little chaos, though.
Yeah.
Could always use a good chaos in this game. Okay, next up we have Kevin.
Oh, Mr. Fall.
I've never seen Kevin play before, not gonna lie.
I've played with him twice.
I only know that you played
and-
once, but I didn't really pay attention to anybody other than you. So, Jacob, you were raising your hand.
Because I know playing with Kevin too well.
Oh,
First two games, maybe even three in this space I played with Kevin. It's like I kept seeing him everywhere. It was like a parasite. I couldn't get rid of him. He just kept following me everywhere. I swear that if I was applying, he was likely following very shortly afterwards. And we're going to mention something about experiment later. But first unanimous winner of the XP history, he'll always have that, and he'll always have me to thank for that. But I think through that, I really understood his game and the one weakness that he is going to have and he really needs to work on. It's his it's killer instinct. Like when I see him play games, like he's I think he's decently minded strategically. I think he's very much like he does like the podcasts with his girlfriend, also an alum of Hypnotic. He seems to very well understand the game, so he's good in that aspect. But the problem is, I remember in that game, it was like Final Four, and he wanted to take the third person in our OG tribe because it would be just a great statement. We came in down numbers to have an all OG tribe final three, and I said no, that's not, because they're gonna kick our butts not only in this next challenge, but they're gonna beat us both at the end. We need to better our odds not only at winning, but also either of us winning in the event that things go awry. And I had to wait until the very last second to tell him this, because otherwise he would have fought against it. He would have. So that's going to be something that's going to be very interesting to see in this game, because there's a lot of ones, a lot of people who want to get down and dirty, a lot of people who are not afraid to manipulate, afraid to start fights, afraid to sort of neglect and openly alienate people. And Kevin's not particularly like that. I think he has a villainous edge to him, but he's technically, in the grand scheme of things, more on the heroic side on this cast, which is very interesting. I wasn't expecting that when he
Yeah.
first applied. And looking at the cast as a whole now, like just really thinking about it, I don't know if he's going to be like a minnow among sharks because he's not going to be as cutthroat as most of these people. If he could keep up with the pace, he can adjust. Or I maybe he could go far, but the best I could see for him, unfortunately, on this cast is being seen as like the why the hell like someone who you'd be wasting your HOH on, if that makes sense. Like someone just dragged along for the ride just because it's
Hey, you
Cap.
know what? Hey, you know what? That's a strategy we've seen before. Hey, you don't need to make a big move. You don't need to get me out, and then they just make it to the end. But I was curious. You're saying weak spot is their killer instinct, like they have too much of it or not enough?
Not enough.
Okay, I was gonna
Yeah.
I was gonna agree, because in the one long game I played, with them, which was Wheel actually, um, what I think was their downfall was like not really wanting to follow through on like plans. And the reason I say that is because it's middle of the game, Kevin wins HOH, and due to the twist, Kevin has to put up four of the like eight other house guests for eviction or something like that. There was one house target that basically everybody wanted out, but there was also another person who was very closely aligned to the house target that everyone was like, well, if that person's not on the block, then the house target could stay. So, um, so I go to Kevin. I'm like, hey, put up the house target. That's an easy person for you. And he was like, yeah, cool. And then I was like, and put up their number one. That's another. And he was like, ooh, I don't know. I want to stay on their good side though. uh, so despite a lot of people telling him to do that, he only took a half measure, and then the house target didn't even go home that round. So, all that being said, I feel like, especially in this cast that seems to be very calculated in their moves and how they're going to plan out their like attacks, if Kevin can A, come up with a plan, B, follow through on the plan, then I could see um then I could see them going far. However, I do think another viable strategy would be the whole hey, you're wasting an HOH on me strategy. Um so maybe somewhere in the middle. We'll see. Okay, next up.
Do we have anything
Ooh,
else to say on Kevin?
I'm sorry, I keep doing that.
No. Fuck you, Alex. Anyway.
I'm sorry. Oh, I just don't want
No,
this
I
to
really don't.
I just don't want this to run as long as last season, which was way too long. Um, cool. Okay.
Cool.
That being said, next up is Lyndon.
I love Lyndon.
Yeah.
Love Lyndon. Love
Same.
Lyndon.
And I think that might be a problem for. Oh, I
Do you
muted
think that'd be a
myself.
problem?
I don't know, just given this cast and given who Lyndon knows, I don't know. Like, does that make sense?
I get it. Yeah.
I just don't know if Lyndon can manage their threat level as well as other players can.
Well, here's how.
That's that's what I have to say for right now. I love Lyndon. Good social player. However, threat level kind of be high.
Well, here's the thing. I would say if we're looking purely in terms of like how good they do in games, as
That too.
as far as placement goes, then yes, Lyndon's threat level is high, and I think she gets very far in games because of who she knows, how she manages those relationships, and how she kind of presents herself as a like, I'm here to have a good time sort of
Yes.
player. Um, where I think um the like cracks start to form is like she'll get to the end, but then not really have like the killer instinct to bring it home
Yeah.
because Lyndon gets very connected to these people in these games and doesn't like voting them out and being cutthroat. Um, which is fine because you can win games without that.
However, I do feel
But
like her social game is what gets her really far in games.
yeah,
Despite any previous connections she may have, she still will talk to people even if she doesn't know them. Like I don't fully know like how many connections she has in this game. Like I don't it could be literally everybody, but like she won't just use that I feel as much because she's still like she'll still try to get to know someone even if she already knows them. She and she's a
yeah,
very like I think I said this about Jeff before and maybe also Alex. Um she's a very personable person and there's someone like people like being around and that's gonna work to a certain point, obviously. Because there's gonna be a certain point where people are gonna be like, this is a social threat who needs to go, you know? But I think that at least makes at jury at least.
oh yeah,
Like I don't see Lyndon being a pre-merge boot unless I know they just said that their work hours got extended. So if inactivity does come into play, that could really be in effect if you know outside life comes into play. Um but
definitely.
I don't see Lyndon going pre-merge.
Correct.
Zach, did you want to say anything about Lyndon?
I did.
Okay, cool.
Next.
Hey, I gotta talk about Lyndon, damn it. So Lyndon, bet is the best ally I've ever had in a game, period. We final two'd, we made it all the way to the end. Nobody knew that we knew each other. And I was, because, like, much to her credit, I was so invested that I want to throw FTC for her to win because that was my biggest motivation. Like, I wanted us to go far, but most importantly, I wanted her to win. I wanted her to be safe, highest priority of all. And Lyndon just has this ability to forge genuine bonds with just about anybody, just finding that one thing and just not necessarily latching onto it because that sounds a bit more disingenuous. Like you can't just bond over just one thing or just talk about something nonstop. It gets annoying at some point, but she just has this way of just winning people over. And in a cast like this, like I think that she's going to. I still think in any given cast she's going to do very well. I do again worry about the abundance of villains, abundance of cutthroat, and people who are like, I'm leaning more on the strategic side because last season, everyone wants to be social because it's a social game first and foremost. Like that's what helps get you farthest. It's the social game. But a lot of players here are on the strategic element, which I think is the area to which she is the weakest on. To where I don't think anyone that we've mentioned so far has said that their weakest element was the strategic game. Like again, to Kevin's point, like I think Kevin will be cutthroat if he absolutely needs to. Like there are circumstances to which I think he'll cut someone if it benefits him. I don't see Lyndon doing that.
Lyndon.
Lyndon will not. Lyndon is down to ride to all the way to the end with you.
I would
And
love
there's going to be a
cutthroat
lot of
Lyndon
people.
game.
Sorry,
I'm just saying, I would love to see a cutthroat Lyndon game.
I would kill to see a cutthroat Lyndon, but I mean, hey, like this is supposed to be the successor to Keaton, so maybe
Oh
maybe
yeah,
she'll break the contract.
they're roommates.
Oh my god, they're roommates.
Anyway,
So the winner of last last season is gonna be hearing a lot about this season. Maybe giving some advice.
Ooh, interesting.
So who's the next person?
Well, I'm gonna have Heather sit up for this because she'll have a lot to say about Minor.
I have a lot to say about Minor.
Yeah.
Zach's the one who's gonna have a lot to say about Minor.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you love you can't.
That's my
I
bestie.
feel like you were like autocasting Minor.
My autocast.
Oh, I was
do
kind
love
of
Minor,
too.
and I wanted to cast Minor.
Right. Okay.
But Zach was a final 2 with Minor and
Gang
Adams.
gang. Like
Same thing. Yeah.
I love Bestie. Bestie's super loyal. I don't know what else to say. He has some good decent comp abilities. You can't be cutthroat with Minor. Minor can be cutthroat. I was just fortunate to not experience it on the receiving end. And you kind of like Joe, gonna be very under the radar because he seems more innocent than he is, in my opinion. Am I wrong, Jacob? Like, correct. I don't know what else. I'm really excited to watch him play like fully. Like, because there are things I didn't know that he was doing behind my back, but that's fine. So I'm excited to watch the full Minor game. That is all.
If Minor doesn't make it to like final 6 at least, dropped. At least makes it to the point
Yes.
where we'll compete some veto. I'm so confident in Minor going far. Like, talk about all the villains and stuff like that. Minor doesn't care. Who the hell would target Minor? Like, like,
Yes.
why would you
Minor is
put him up?
going to I'm
What's wrong?
calling it now. Minor is going to be hero of the season.
Damn.
Correct.
Especially in a season with so many villains, Minor is gonna rise so far to the top.
Granted, in season 1, we gave
Yes.
arguably a villain hero of the season. So
But that's just
Okay,
We
but
did
he's
do
the
that.
most heroic
did.
thing.
I know.
Also, I just want to say, get ready for a Pokemon battle between Joe and Minor. Just saying that's happening.
Oh,
What?
I have.
It's
I,
fine.
I don't
Joe
know.
and Minor are gonna bond. They're gonna final 2, and that's my bold prediction. Thank you.
Oh, cute.
I think, and I mean, I don't really know as much about how Minor plays at all. That's why I had you all speak on that.
Yes.
But I do think Minor is just
Minor is a sweetie pie.
Minor's a sweetie pie.
Yes.
And,
In
I
fact,
don't
did he
know.
just send me a TikTok? He might have anyway.
But yeah, that's my opinion on Minor. I think he's a sweetheart. I do think that like he can make it far socially, and he does have a strategic mind too.
Yeah.
Oh
Like,
yes.
he's smart. So he's got the whole package, you know?
Oh, I'm excited.
Like I'm not sure how he's as much on comp abilities. Did he say anything about that?
Zach, did Minor win?
He he lost to Timmy in Fire, but he won an endurance comp, I believe, Jacob, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he won 2, I think. He won the one in the early stages, and yeah. He won A1. It was the A1 individual and then an endurance comp.
Well, unfortunately, we're not having A1 this season.
No. So Jacob, go ahead, because you have like the most clear Minor gameplay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, like, I just love Minor. Minor could do no wrong in my eyes. Minor could probably like spit in your face, like push you down like a flight of stairs and like burn your house down. You're like, oh, how sweet. Thank you, Minor. Just that's just the vibe I get from him. I
want Minor to push me
I want to
down.
play with Minor so bad. Like in spite of seeing how good he is. Like
If Minor
he's
can pull-
really
if Minor
like he's
pulls the
dangerous
strategic-
if you underestimate him. And I think a lot of people are still.
Yeah.
Which is
I
crazy.
would not underestimate Minor.
I would overestimate. No. I would perfectly estimate.
Cool.
All right. Okay. Anything else on minor format?
I think I'm good. I like I've said, I don't know a lot of this cast prior to these, so this is gonna be an interesting cast for me overall. But
Mhm.
I think the person who has the most knowledge on the next person is you. But even then, I feel like a lot of us still are not knowing what to expect from this next person.
Morgan, 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 Morgan. I'm so excited. Morgan. Okay, so I
I,
just
yeah, go.
so I just played Inferno with Morgan. It was Morgan's first game, and when I tell you that just that being her first game, she dominated. That is not an exaggeration. Like like in that first game, in her first game, if she made it to the end, she would have beaten anyone. And that's how good of a player she was. And I think where that comes from is she is so good at talking to people and making them feel like heard when they're talking strategy and making them feel like she's on their side. And that's how I'm sure or that's how I think she made it through like that entire game without getting like a single vote until she was like sniped up the final five by a twist. um, but I'm really excited because I don't know how she would play um a Big Brother format game. Um, obviously Survivor and Big Brother are different. Where at because like in a Survivor game, it's just like, oh, who's the best option out of like everybody, and like get the name off of yourself if it is. I would be really interested to see how she handles being on the block and she has to campaign against somebody else. I think she would be good at that, but I think it'd be a different uh wheelhouse as far as like how exactly it works. Um yeah, in her interview, she literally said that she uses the relationships she builds um as her strategy. Like it so less so just, oh, I'm good with this person, now I can move on. More so, oh, I'm good with this person, let's see what they can do for me later. Which I think is a really, really smart thing to do. Um eh, I'm just really excited, especially in a cast that I think knows each other very well, with Morgan still being relatively new to these games, um, but also very good at being social. I feel like it'll be interesting to see how she's able to maneuver all those social bonds.
It's weird for me to assess Morgan because my first experience is me playing Wheel with her right now as we speak. So I feel like I have a lot of not necessarily bias, but I'm not getting the full picture. Like if you
Yeah,
recall
maybe.
back to like an old game that you guys played together like a few months ago that ended and you get to now have like the insight of the hosts and relative to what was actually going on in the game, you can have an accurate read. I don't really have that on Morgan based off of just that because I wasn't keeping up with Inferno like that. I thought Alex was gone at like final 9 and then magically he went out to final 2. But you know, like
I should
that
have been gone at Final
aside,
Nine, but
I
oh well.
Morgan I really like Morgan. Morgan's very fun and very like personable. I think that's really just the key word there. I think she's very easy to talk to. I think that coming into this game, I don't know how much not being connected is going to affect her. Because I know Zach worried about that with Joe because Joe doesn't play all that much. It's not that Morgan doesn't play all that much, is Morgan just hasn't been around for as long. So I think a couple people in here kind of have like an idea, like a dossier, like all the players that they've played with and like know what to expect from. Morgan's a question mark. Morgan's a question mark for me right now as we speak, and I'm playing with her. So I'm very interested to see her play.
Yeah. As someone who is also currently playing with her, one of the as we mentioned before with another player, all of us playing with her right now, it's hard for us to assess her right now. And
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat as Jacob. Like, I saw her in Inferno and I heard everything from you, but like, and I've mainly only heard about her social game. But yeah, I did hear a lot about like that kind of stuff. And even her interview was great. It was she the one who lied about?
Running a marathon.
Yeah.
Because it was the Disney thing.
Right. That they're like
Because you thought, because she goes, oh, I've done Run Disney. And we're like, oh yeah, you live in Orlando. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No.
Never mind. I'm thinking of someone else's thing then.
But at least that's a testament to, like she was lying and she was able to like add detail, be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Okay, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just thought it was something else, and then
Yeah.
I was gonna speak on like something. But anyway, um, yeah, I don't know how she is with hero or villain because I feel like she
Hero.
can be. Here's the thing: I think she can be perceived both ways.
Ooh.
Because if she's using people's
Mm-hmm.
emotions and her connections with them as strategy, some people aren't going to take that so well. Some people are going to be like, oh yeah, she was like my closest ally. But if they find out that she wasn't, people might get more bitter towards that than
Yep.
not. So yeah, you may see her as a hero, but like I feel like she's gonna be very split on that. Not gonna lie.
I will say, I think the way she handled it, at least in Inferno, was that like, yes, she was like involved in sort of backstabbing people that thought that like that they were good with her, but because she was like in a group that was doing it, she was able to maneuver in such a way of like, oh well, blame them, but like still having that on her resume.
Yeah.
Um. Oh, and as far as physical, she won like an endurance comp as well. So just a little cherry on top as far as like, hey, she'll win a comp or two. It'll be fun to see. It would be very interesting to see her win HOH because what was it? Yeah, she said she's bad at like making dirty moves. And so if she does win HOH, I know that like the like cliche of winning HOH is like, all right guys, I'm sorry, but I'm HOH, I gotta put two people up. Um I feel like Morgan would have a very tough time even narrowing the list down. Not to say like there's a lot of people she'd want to put up. It's like she doesn't want to single two people out.
I mean, she hasn't been put up on the block in wheel one, so clearly she's doing something right.
What's like week 3?
I'm triggered.
Been too
Some of
bad.
us have been, okay?
There has
Anyway,
there has
That's
been
fine.
two battles.
by Jason Ronzi, but hi. I have nothing else to add because Jacob, I am also in the same situation as Jacob and Heather. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Okay, so then let's move on to a person that we can all freely talk about, and that's Nick.
Nick, okay. I was like, Nick, man.
Yeah.
Man,
I have to go get something, but you guys go off.
Chaos King.
Which really
Um,
sucks because then Jacob might be able to describe hosting Nick more. I adore Nick.
who did we say Joe was chaos before?
Austin.
Austin's chaos. So Nick is
well,
gonna
all
be
three of them. Oh, spoiler alert. I can say they all know each other. That's the one person Joe knows.
Yeah.
Cool.
I've heard
So
that they
that's
all
gonna
know
be
each
a
other.
hot mess of a trio to watch. I'm excited.
Well,
Um,
Austin and Nick are on a prod team together. Hopefully that
yes,
doesn't come too much into play.
n- not really, because Joe and Nick are no, sorry, Joe and Austin aren't that close. So Nick is probably gonna feel like the glue to keep them together. But like Austin is gonna backstab the fuck out of Nick. Let's be real here.
Oh.
Let's let's like Nick Mana is a good friend of mine. Take a shot. No, but Chaos King. What I'm worried about of him is I watched him play Spellbound in his host chat most recently. What I'm worried about is, yes, he will be willing to pull the trigger. Sometimes I think it's at the wrong time. Like if you have an opportunity to get out Julia Rowe on a tribe of 3, he's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm a sheep Julia.
Well,
He sheeps women a lot.
as
He may
someone
sheep
who
Morgan. So, you know. But yes, I think Nick pulls the trigger at the wrong times.
Yeah, I can agree with that as someone who was in Spellbound with Nick. Granted, that's like the only thing I have with
Yeah.
Nick that I can really speak upon. Um, Nick talks himself into a hole.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
I love Nick from the bottom of my heart. He talks to too many people to the point where they start comparing notes and are like, huh, okay.
Yeah.
So the exact wording I said to Nick got over here.
Yep.
And then the exact wording you said to Nick got to me. So we have a mutual target now.
It's the idea of making too many like backup plans.
Yes.
But then those backup
Yeah.
plans start talking to each other.
Yes.
Pretty much. And so I do feel like that was Nick's downfall in the game I played with him. Is that going to be the case now?
What I
No.
will say too, Nick says that he's not a good liar. So he just doesn't tell the whole truth. Like he'll say, yeah, this is good for my game, and it kind of benefits you, but not really. So that's just something interesting I've talked with Nick about. He doesn't think he's a good liar. I think he's better than he gives himself credit for. He's still not good.
It's interesting because it's like I think it's like you could kind of tell that he's lying, but like even when he's telling the truth, he seems like he's lying.
Exactly that. And Nick is self-aware about that because we've talked about this.
So I don't want to talk like all bad about Nick because he is such a like he is a
No,
good
I love
he
Nick. He
is
said
really
this
good.
himself to me.
Yeah, he's really good, but it's like he just has this aura about him in games where it's like,
Yep.
I love talking to you. I think you're great. I want to work with you, but I don't think you want to work with me.
Correct.
Kind of thing. And I think people are going to see that too. Did he explain himself as a villain too?
Yep.
Or depends who you ask.
Yeah.
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 Loyal to my crew. Question is, who is my crew? So I guess villain to those people. I'm assuming those people is like the people not in his crew.
Yes.
Well, the thing is, I wouldn't consider Nick necessarily a villain as much as he
What?
is chaotic.
Yes.
Because he's chaotic, but I don't think it's out of like malicious game intent.
No,
No.
I would consider him less of a villain and consider him more as a player who accidentally becomes someone that people want to get out.
The first thing that came to my mind, which is like, oh my gosh, the entertainment factor.
Yeah.
Because he's not being villainous to be villainous in a game, to be cutthroat in a game. He's being villainous to create the most possible chaos. We're still on Nick because Nick is an enigma. We love
Yeah.
Nick here. And I see Nick going far because even when you're like, I can't trust you because I don't know like if I can trust you, you still take him along.
Nick is Zachary.
Stop.
Oh no, I made the cursed connection.
So the next person. Sorry, Jacob. We need to move on.
No, Jacob, if you want to talk a little bit
No,
about
for
Nick.
real.
No, that's not for real. Okay, so for real, like we gotta move on, or for real, Jacob, you could talk
No,
about
no, you
it.
can talk about Nick if you want.
We only
Okay,
have two people after Nick, so
okay, I'll try to be quick. Loved hosting him in Spellbound because, like, to like his credit, like, oh, he's this chaotic player. It was kind of working. Like, I was talking about Andrew being in a good position. Nick was shortly thereafter him, like the main informant to a lot of people and the main network where a lot of the stuff was being leaked and sent out. And he was distributing it in a way to where he was causing paranoia, yes, within the tribe, but it was mostly directed towards one another, where they felt like Nick was the person that they can most confide in, more so than Andrew, would not particularly, but still likely a very good ally. And one thing that I really admire about Nick strategically is that he's like everyone is prone to making mistakes, but he almost immediately was like, maybe that wasn't the idea, which I really get, which I really respect, because a lot of people kind of like commit to their bad move, to their bad decision. I kind of had to find like a way, how can I accommodate for this? How can I adjust this? He sort of like tries to fix it, or realizes, okay, maybe if I did not do this, I could do this, and then I could do. He's very analytical. He's very thorough when he was thinking. Like it's Spellbound, it was very fun seeing him have the banter with Zach and Sydney in his prod chat, and then be in Zach's prod chat season one and sort of doing the same thing, just being chaotic and whatnot. But he's such a great play. He's one of my favorite people to host. Just getting a hold of him on a confessional is just it's great. It's awesome, and I'm very excited to see him play because I've also who have I not hosted on this cast, honestly? But I hosted him a while back, and I don't remember it very vividly. So I predict he's either. I don't see like a middle placement for him. He's going to go very early, or he's going to go very, very far. I just don't know which one.
I mean, I don't know if you would agree with what Zach just said, because he just said he's the Zach Rance of the org community.
Makes sense.
Because like I was saying that like he considers himself a villain, but I don't see him as a villain as much as causing chaos for like
A select group of people.
for causing chaos and being that person.
Not even a select group of
Like
people. It's just whoever gets in the way.
Anyway, we could go on to the next person who has the best cast photo, in my opinion.
Oh,
And that's Sam.
oh, that's not who I thought we were on.
Who do you think we're?
Oh no, that's the next person.
I think we're on the top two cast
Got
photos.
you,
To be
got
fair.
you.
We were on the top two cast photos.
Yeah, I got you.
I do like the other one, but this one makes me cackle every single time because he's Mr. Krabs.
No,
Mr. Krabs or just a crab.
Yes.
Whatever, it works either way.
third place is Jay for me because the pose is cool, but then these two are the top two, I think, definitively for
Cool.
me.
So who is it, besties?
Sam William. I played Disney with him a long time ago, ye old times in the 80s, and it was very weird playing with him back then because I know when comparing each other and like doing the interview, he was actually the last interview that we did for the season. Alex was like, he's not a villain. He doesn't have a villainous opponent. And I haven't seen him play a game where he wasn't the villain, oddly enough. So it's very weird to see like this anti-hero in a way. Someone who's very loyal, who's very true to his group, but kind of just low
Wait,
tolerance for BS.
Did you say that's what I said?
Yeah, that's what you said. Like, oh, like he's nothing near like because he was a hero in Wheel. You mentioned
Okay.
something to that effect,
I
and
think,
I was like, I've only seen that.
I think, well, for me, because Sam's in a different time zone than most players. At least how I approached that was more like everyone else was saying like, oh, Sam's kind of like inactive, not inactive, but just like time zones prevent him from being online most of the time. So I guess I took the time to like, getting good with him. I think it paid off because he was never villainous to me. I don't even think he was villainous to anyone in that game. It was just Yeah, it was kind of not heroic, not villainous, but very much present. I don't know.
Yeah, like I gotta give the guy credit. Like the guy's like what, like 5 hours ahead
Yeah,
of Eastern time, and he says, "Yo, I'm willing to stay up until 2 p.m., 2 a.m. If that's what I gotta do to be able to survive this vote." That's some tenacity. That's some balls.
play.
That's
Well,
some
granted, they had
determination.
Joel last season, who didn't let being in a completely different country, like let alone time zone, affect his game. And I feel like that's something that Sam also doesn't let affect his game,
Hmm.
which is kind of what, like you were saying, how he's 5 hours ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Jacob.
No,
I
it's
feel
okay.
like I just feel like I cut you off. I was trying to relate to what you were saying. I don't know that much about Sam.
They describe themselves as another villain, which I'm still in denial of, just based on um, just like based on how I saw them play. Um, like I'm pretty sure they were one of the only people that season to win the veto when they weren't on the block and then use it on one of the noms. I don't like, and that like not even a villainous way, just like, yeah, I don't want to see this person go home.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they describe themselves as unpredictable, loyal to a fault, take out friendships and cut people when they need to.
So,
This is interesting. I feel like this is another, like, at least for me, this is another wild card player, especially on this cast. He could fulfill the villain role. I think there's people that are much more villainous, um, or that will end up being much more villainous. I don't know. I'm gonna. Jacob.
he's ready for bed. We have one more person after Sam.
Sam's still a wild card for me. I'm gonna go with an open mind as far as how I think they're gonna play this game.
Alright.
That's what I have to say about that. Anything else on Sam? Good talk.
No.
Okay, last but not least, our final player,
Um,
and that is
the
Topher.
one who
Oh.
didn't he spend like $20 on slime for his
Sure did. Sure did, Busty.
Yeah, the awards for most amount of money spent on their cast photos. In second place comes to Morgan for buying her Wanda outfit, but in first place goes to Topher for buying like $25 worth of slime mix.
And the best cast photo, in my opinion. But anyway,
It's something. I appreciate the commitment, Topher.
that's what I was gonna say. If he's dedicated to just the cast photo, imagine the dedication and the effort he's going to put into this game.
Oh, I think
And
Jacob and I can attest to
I was gonna say,
that.
watch him play Spellbound. That's the only thing I really saw him. Because I was in a canceled game with him that we don't talk about, but it's okay. So I know he's good because he's gotten second because of his dedication. So the question is, will his reputation hurt or help him? Who knows?
I hope it doesn't. I don't like how sometimes people can get hindered by performing
Yes.
well in like recent games.
Mhm.
Especially because this is a Big Brother game. It's a completely different wheelhouse. Um. Oh,
I want Jacob to speak.
Look, I put my hoodie on because I'm still sad that he lost Spellbound. I'm actually really sad. Like I'm still mourning. Like what's he was so
Busty,
wrong.
you're still mourning season one. Anyway, continue.
I mean,
Anyway,
anyways, anyway, um, no, because I remember doing the power rankings for just all time in Spellbound, and if he won, he would have been number one by a landslide. I felt, and he's number two right now, right below Timmy, our season one winner, because he lost. But he was such an incredible player, like in a way to where like I was mentioning this earlier with Austin, where like he felt like the one out for most people. I'm like, but at least I got Topher. Topher's my last hope. If Topher's not saving me, I'm not gonna stay. And he was in such a good position throughout the entirety of the game. And it's really weird because I didn't expect the game that I got out of him. Like I told Heather, I thought Heather was gonna be the villain. And I thought Topher was going to be the hero of the season, but boy, was I wrong. And I flipped the script and gave them the opposite awards. Like Topher, I remember me leaving Spellbound, being like, if I want to play like that, if I'm not this devoted to the theme, if I'm not giving it like 50% of the effort Topher was putting in that game, then what the hell am I doing playing these games? Like he's such a good player, and you may not even expect him to be that. Like kind of like Minor, like a little bit. I think a lot of people were lured in by that charisma, by his personality, by his charm, and a lot of people didn't expect the cutthroat player that they ended up getting in there. So a lot of people felt especially angry with him in the jury because I'm like, how could Topher do that to me? So that's going to be my biggest question mark to me. It's not the reputation because I don't know how he's perceived. Like I just assume it's positive because who the hell bashes like Jen Topher? Like who doesn't love Tophin? You know what I mean? But that's my biggest concern. Like if he makes it to the end, will he really learn his mistake from Spellbound? Because this is the best he's done in the game. So for all I know, he's going to want to replicate that here. And that one little tweak in the formula is, I think, all he needs from changing to being a runner up to being a winner. He really needs to make that tweak.
As the person who played with him in that game, and well, first of all, from that season, and with the cast that we were able to get for this game, from that season of Spellbound, we have probably, I would arguably say, three of the biggest personalities from that season. Which, that being Nick, Denson, and Topher.
Correction, those three biggest fears.
There we go.
Yeah. So playing with Topher was a time because as you saw, Jacob, I was one to clock that Topher was playing a great game, and I felt like I was one of the only people who wanted to get Topher out earlier in the merge phase than everybody else did. Um, and like to the point where even I remember talking to Denson at that time, being like, I really think that our best move is getting rid of Topher, and he's like, no, we gotta get rid of Mikey. Shout out to the like runner-up alum. Uh, and I'm just like, what? Like Topher is right there out in the open, not having an immunity. We could do something. And he didn't want to do it. Nick didn't want to do it because then Nick told Topher and like caused that chaos. And it's just like, dude, I felt like I was the only one who wasn't under Topher's spell. But at the same time, I adored Topher. Whenever I got on a call with Topher, it like was so great. Like he's an amazing person. And I do agree, he played a great, phenomenal game that season. Obviously, there's flaws. There's flaws in everybody's game that season. But I do feel like, obviously, I didn't vote Topher to win that game. That's more because, for me, jury management outweighs a lot of things. And that was where I saw that Topher lacked a little bit more. And that's like the flaw that I see that maybe needs to be fixed from a previous game, but I hope that it doesn't come into play at all because I can't wait to see Topher play. Like instead of like playing with Topher, just being able to like see and understand how that brain works because we're not getting Topher the unencumbered this game. I don't know who we're getting this game, honestly, because
We're getting somebody.
he's gonna be committed to some sort of bit, and I have no idea what it is, but I cannot wait for it, you know? Um, and his mind works in this like amazing way that I can't wait to witness myself, not by playing with him, because That was a time. I feel like if Topher and I were not swapped away from each other that game, we would have been a lot closer than we were. Uh, but like close in game wise, like close person wise, I love it. I love that man. Great person. But yeah, that's how I feel about that. Is there anything left to say on Topher?
I think you said
So
it
sad
all.
he lost. Feel so
Yes.
sad.
I'm sorry.
It was fine. He made me cry. Never cried during a finale before. His speech made me cry.
He
That
almost flipped me. Like, cause I was more I was leaning Julia, but I was very open to like who I was going to vote, and that happens honestly very rarely in games for me to be so open as I was in Spellbound, and I almost had my vote go to Topher at the end. I think there was like one or two things that I was like, okay, this is where I see Julia playing better, but like, yeah, basically.
Lovable villain.
Yeah. Lovable villain. Yeah, I can see that.
That's cute.
Maybe he'll be hero this time.
Oh, that'd be fun. Ah, all right, and with that, that is our cast for Hypnotic Season 2 Slimageddon. Our season will be happening, will be premiering tomorrow night. If you are watching this, the season has already happened, so hopefully we're not too far off. We're gonna be completely wrong. Like, I'll be completely wrong, actually. But yeah, thanks for joining us on this cast assessment of Hypnotic. See you on the other side.
Like,